Community is international community. Okay? International. We really are. We have people from all over the world.
Intercontinental.
Global society. You know, it's amazing. It's all possible because of modern technology now, you know. Airplane made it possible. And then traveling. If visa is not the issue, people are traveling even more, I think. You know, I keep on thinking this visa thing, you know. I think every country can make a strict rule. Visa violators should be really banned and everything, but non-violators should be able to travel, you know. Don't make it difficult. There will be a lot of people traveling here and there, if you know. Yeah. I think there will be a lot of people traveling, even from third world countries, who would not violate visas, you know. Just the overall thing, and it's completely banned, you know. It's very difficult like that. But if you have a very clear law, rule saying, you know, non-violators are free to travel back and forth anytime, you know, make it a little easy, and the violators should be punished. Can we Buddhists punish people who do bad things? Yeah. Of course, the number one thing would be to forgive everybody, right? Of course, that's, even if somebody kills somebody, you have to forgive. That's the right thing to do. Of course, you know. But then what to do? Then you have to have a society norm, you know, based on how everybody's accept. And so then rule has to come based on that. What is ordinarily acceptable, what is ordinarily not acceptable, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Enlightened society in samsara is difficult, you know? Although there are stories, historically speaking, kingdoms that exist, really enlightened kings, truly benevolent and compassionate king who ruled the kingdom, and the king's spiritual quality was so great, so powerful under the kingdom. There was absolute peace. Everybody, you know, this is, historically things like that did exist. We read from Buddhist literature, you know, such king existed at a particular time and space. But then it's all temporary though, you know, again and changes. People's karma changes, right? You remember I was telling you one story about Milarepa? Milarepa up in the Himalayan mountain. Milarepa was prophesied by his guru Marpa to go to different places and meditate. You know, go this mountain, meditate, that mountain, meditate. Milarepa went actually trying to bless all those areas so that future generation practitioners, students will benefit from, you know. And there's an understanding in Buddhist teaching that, you know, actually there are tremendous benefits that if you go and meditate and practice where the enlightened masters in the past have meditated, there's a special blessing from the place. You know, in Chinese, there's a thing called geomancy. You all know that, right? Many of you. The feng shui, you know, it's a balance of energy thing. For instance, I think we have very good feng shui here. This land, this is how I feel. Actually, I picked this land based on my intuition. You know, I came here, look around, I'm like, I feel peace, so to speak, you know. I feel tremendously good. I'm like, I looked many places, you know. And when I was here, I'm like, this is it. Just come here, feel, and I felt this is our land, you know. So there's this beautiful energy, right? Like that. So meaning some good energy, feeling, and this I think there's some reality there. Yeah, unique energy places and so on. By the way, somebody was telling me, Wangchen Rinpoche? Wangchen Rinpoche, many of you know, right? Wangchen Rinpoche is a place in the Sedona, Arizona area, that area somewhere. It's a very unique energy place too, I heard. Yeah, I heard. It's, a very unique place. And I think that's why Wangchen Rinpoche picked that. I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
He said the Native Americans were on that land. The Native Americans. Do you know that?
What? Was there a question?
The Native Americans were on that land.
Oh, yeah. This place belong to a mono tribe. Our Mike is half mono. Mike, Mike comes from mono tribe. And then Mike tells us that Yosemite belonged to them. Okay? It's mono tribe land. And we are all intruder here. Energy, yeah. So, there's this belief, energy, very special and so on. So Milarepa was a different places, so he blessed. And in fact, some time ago, Karmapa was talking about places where great beings meditated, and Lord Gampopa meditated, a place where there's a particular spot in cave somewhere in Tibet, place called Volka, that area. The Karmapa, not Karmapa, Lord Gampopa meditated there, and that's a very special place. And then subsequent to that, many great masters also went there, particularly just to meditate, and they talk about this very special energy there, things like that. So Milarepa went in different places, just meditated, just blessed the land, He's an enlightened being, right? And then he was in Nepal area, close to Nepal area, place called Yolmo. Okay? And this actually today, this is part of Nepal, Yolmo. And Milarepa was there. And the reason why I mentioned this story is that I've mentioned this before. So, in that time, there was a Nepal king too, exists, Milarepa time. In the Milarepa time, Nepal king was a Buddhist king. So he had a dream. King had a dream. There's this great yogi, Milarepa, up in the mountain. And that in his dream, and the dream says that he should invite this Milarepa to his palace, kingdom. And then offer him this particular very precious thing the king had in his possession. And that precious thing was called a particular unique herb called Arura herb. It's a healing herb, medicinal herb, some kind of herb had it. That's the herb, medicine Buddha. Medicine Buddha, when you draw medicine Buddha picture, medicine Buddha has a kind of begging bowl. In medicine Buddha's begging bowl, that herb is there. And it's called Arura. It's in Tibetan or Sanskrit word, actually. It's Arura. It's called Arura herb. It's just kind of like herb that heals everything, so to speak. It's that kind of belief, okay? And apparently, king had one Arura herb like that. Very rare. I don't know how that but Nepal king had one like that. And then in his dreams, somebody says that you should invite this enlightened yogi to your palace and offer him this. And if you do that, your kingdom will enjoy peace for 25 years. A dream says that, the king's story. And then king sent his kind of like his envoy, like few envoys of him, with Arura plan, and the king thinking, Milarepa may not want to come to his kingdom, right? And then brought Arura plan and told them, please invite him, if this great master yogi, if he can, you can invite. If he refused to come, he doesn't want to come, then offer him this. And his envoy went to see Milarepa and finally met and then told King sent us, and King said we should invite you to kingdom. And then Milarepa, gave some nice teaching and everything, and then says, no, I'm not going to kingdom, your palace, I'm not going anywhere, I'm just staying. And then he refused to go. And then they offer him that Arura plant. And then my point is, so Nepal kingdom, upon that auspicious dream and offering to Milarepa, kingdom must have enjoyed at least 25 years of true peace. Now, my further point is, then after that, you see, it's 25 years. That's my point again, Like the story of great enlightened ruler, kings who rule entire kingdom with incredible love and compassion, and like that. Entire kingdom enjoy peace and harmony, and not even the Maras weren't able to influence anybody. And stories like that exist. It really exists. But then, in samsara, it's temporary though, right? Even like that. Right now, we're enjoying peace and harmony under Donald Trump. He said he was going to bring peace in Ukraine, but it's tough, right? Yeah, I actually do believe he did wanted to try and bring peace, but then it's not. And then he also has a little naive thinking too. I think a little bit, as smart as he is, there's some naiveness there too. Know what to do. That's everybody has. Peace in Ukraine, not possible unless Ukraine has to be the loser. Putin is not going to accept anything less than whatever his demands are, Peace usually had to, there's some kind of meeting point, Zelensky, poor guy, had to give up everything. I think it's difficult, right? If Zelensky generated bodhisattva, and then it's okay. But he's only superficially loser, but ultimately winner then, This is the bodhisattvas understand that, You see, that really is Buddha's teaching. You have to be loser. Be loser to be winner, great winner. You see, that really is Buddha's teaching. Willing to be temporarily loser. I guarantee you're going to be ultimately winner. This is what Buddha is saying, see? Right? That is how it works, though. Law of karma. Law of karma, so amazing. How do you say? Conventional law, so nobody can, nobody can change that. If you screw it up, sooner or later you have to pay the price unless you meet a Dharma and sincerely regret, repent, remorseful, and really purify the karma. Otherwise, it's going to manifest, what to do. Seed is planted, right? Corn seed planted, corn is going to manifest. Circumstances already there, it's going to manifest, If you're hoping, I planted, throw a little corn seed and you're hoping some spectacular, beautiful flower shows up. No, it's going to be corn. This is what law of karma really means, you see. If you plant a corn seed, corn is going to rise, nothing else, That's what really karma really means, you see. If you want a beautiful flower, flower seed has to be planted. Yeah, but the good news is there's always hope. See, no matter how hard, difficult it is in the world of samsara, especially human realm, see, there's always hope, and hope is Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They never give up. They always find a way to help. Some activities always somewhere. Buddha Bodhisattvas. like my enlightened guru showed up, and then you see how myself and our other disciples benefited. This is the hope, you know. Was that you, Anila, or Christina? Somebody asked. You asked, right, Anila? My guru's some stories. Interesting, huh? Story is very inspiring, huh? I myself had a lot of inspiration from reading biographies of enlightened gurus. Very inspiring if you read biography, like Milarepa's biography. Many real enlightened gurus' biography is full of inspiration because they have true enlightened aspiration, you know, and then work through, and no matter what, then they break, like so deeply inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, so even the first time I saw his picture and saw Kalu Rinpoche picture the first time, I felt tremendously inspired. I don't know why, but even like that's the picture. So I like the stories.
Yeah. You had to be a beneficiary of my guru's love and compassion in the past. Yeah, everybody who's connected to me would have to be that too. Yeah, it's a connection, karma, you know. Part of who, you know, you call this, if you use a tantric terminology, you're part of that mandala. Yeah. Mandala literally means center and circumference, meaning a center of enlightened guru. And then we're all surrounded. Center and circumference. That's the real enlightened society, you know? Yeah.
So, Rinpoche, for an enlightened guru, the mandala is infinite. There's no end.
Yeah. We're talking about a specific mandala, for instance, like guru and all us students around, you know. Of course, enlightened gurus' mandala would be infinity, will include all sentient being, right? Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll tell you one story about my guru. Many, many stories. You know, when my guru first came out of India to West, my guru actually, you all Westerners thank my guru the most. You know why? He really was the first one to spread Buddha Dharma in West. Among all masters, you know. You see, that's what means an enlightened being, you know. There were other teachers, Tibetan teachers who came, and they never thought, because culturally, ethnically so different, linguistically, right? They never thought that the Westerners, you know, white and blonde Westerners, why would they follow our religion? You know, many of them, quite a few of them around, they never believed they will ever follow their religious path. No, they just cannot conceive of that idea. But my guru is different. You know why? Because he's an enlightened being. He understands, see potential in everybody, human being, Buddha nature, you know, right? So then he was able to teach. So what happened back in the early 60s, you know, a bunch of European and American students came to India. Those are, I think, hippie times and so on. And then there were, you know, some kind of karmic driven thing, I think, you know. And then they ended up, some of them ended up in my guru, as my guru's student. And one of them is called Sherab. His name is Sherab. His Tibetan name is Sherab Tharchin. And later I noticed his family name must be Eden. He called it Sherab Eden. Okay? And Sherab was a young man, and he was very devoted to Kalu Rinpoche, my guru. And so, very, very devoted. And he turned out, he came from a very, very wealthy American family. And his parents were some insurance tycoon. Some, you know, like insurance company owners here in the United States. Very big. He was a super wealthy son. So he, you know, Somehow his parents are willing to help him. And he's the one who invited Kalu Rinpoche to the West. And he convinced, he was very devoted to Kalu Rinpoche. He convinced, I'm going to invite you, come to America. Actually at that time, my guru didn't know how America and West really are. They've never been much out of Tibet, They're only in India, right? Like, America, so famous. And finally, okay, he thought maybe there's some spiritual calling maybe to spread Dharma, and he was willing to travel. And then the story was that he was asked by his student, where do you like to go? West first. West is not a very big place. Where would you like to go? And then my guru had said that he would like to go to wherever the West, spiritual center of the West is, first there. And then Sherab Eden decided the spiritual center of the West is Jerusalem. Israel, Jerusalem. This is where all the monotheistic religion, come from, right? Judaism, Islam, Christian, all come from there. So, Jerusalem was where it originated. So he brought Kalu Rinpoche first from India, first flight to Jerusalem. Interesting, huh? And then, I'll tell you a story, very interesting. Kalu Rinpoche first came from Tibet to Bhutan, okay? And he was at the Bhutan at the royal guest of Bhutanese princess. He was a sister of a king. And she's very devoted to my guru. And he stayed in Bhutan as her guest, and she sponsored everything and so on. Then she gave him, because he was in Bhutan for a few years, so then they gave him kind of like a certificate, ID certificate saying Bhutan. There was a photo and just some written letters in Tibetan. Bhutanese write Tibetan, okay? Tibetan, and saying he is a passport. They call it, and then they thought that was a passport. They call it a passport. Then they thought that was a passport. They didn't even know what passport was then. Can you believe it was like that? My gurus are so kind of like from Tibet, never had any passport, ID, nothing, right? And the Bhutanese government gave him a piece of paper where they put a little photos there, right? And it said, it's in Bhutan. And actually, that document was kind of like a resident permit of Bhutan or something like that, So you were okay to stay in Bhutan type of paper. There's no English language, nothing. It's only few Tibetan words like that. Then you know what? Very interesting. My guru has one of his first students who were also a Canadian ambassador in New Delhi, India. Embassy of Canada became my guru's student. And he came all the way to his monastery, they say, Sanada. And then his student asked, the other student asked, go to America and so on. Then in order to travel, you need a passport. A passport. And my guru said, oh, I have passport. That Bhutanese one paper, Oh, then I say, I have passport. And then, oh yeah, okay. And then you know what? Then in the passport you need a visa. So then, okay. And then ask Canadian. And the Canadian student said, we want you to come to Canada too, And then Canadian student, embassy student, didn't even ask if it's legitimate passport or not. Kalu Rinpoche said this is passport. He stamped there on the piece of paper, Canadian visa, on that piece of paper. That's not actually a passport even. Then went to U.S. Embassy, and U.S. Embassy stamped it, and everybody else stamped on that paper, that one piece of paper, okay? So interesting. And they travel like that. First, where we'd like to go, spiritual center of the West, Jerusalem. Then went to Jerusalem, and so on. And there's one very interesting story, a Jerusalem story. My guru's closest attendant called Jalsen had said that when he came out of the airplane gate, that time you come out a gate and walk on the steps. Jalsen had said the landscape that he saw in Jerusalem was, a landscape that he had in his dream many, many times. Jalsen had said he dreamed that many, many times. I have a theory about this particular story. I tell you, Lama Tashi said, but I'm not going to mention that right now. Anyway, that's that, okay? Then Jerusalem. Then I think from there, then he wanted to meet if spiritual teacher exists, and took him to Rome, Italy. my guru, you might have seen my guru very respectfully bowing to Pope. You remember one of the Pope? That's also from that time. Okay. And what I remember is my guru was telling several things. And one of the things my guru said was, the Pope said that I have 600 million followers in the world. Pope told my guru. I still remember that. Pope said that he had 600 million followers in the world. Like that. Anyway, then they were in England. My guru has some students in England. Okay, this is the main story I want to tell you, how incredible that thing is. Okay, our time, am I going to be little? Okay, doesn't matter. And then England, and they were doing something, and then all of a sudden, my guru's Lama guy had a bag, and the bag had a passport and a few other things there, and it was stolen in England. Somebody stole that thing, and then all of a sudden, no passport, no nothing. Now is how you're going to travel type of thing have happened, and then people are concerned, and then local authorities are immediately informed. We lost our passport type of thing. Local authorities very good. They came, the police came, and they're trying to console them. And police says, the head of the police says, don't worry about it. If we'll find your passport back, if we cannot, we'll give you a passport. He actually told Kalu Rinpoche, we'll give you a passport. And the other thing is, when they were in Israel, Israeli government also said, we would like to give you citizenship, Israel citizenship. And the Kalu Rinpoche said, no, I already have passport, I don't need it. And England, the same thing happened. Then you know what? Then the next day, then it was printed in the local newspaper. So this is a Tibetan master, Buddhist teachers here, and they had lost their passport and something. And if anybody please give it back to us, something. The newspaper was printed like that. And the fascinating story is this, so amazing. And then there was two guys walking on the park, okay? And there was a small little lake in the park. And then one guy is walking with the dog on the leash. Another guy is walking with the newspaper, reading like this. And then all of a sudden, as soon as they got close, dog somehow pulled away from the leash, jump into the lake. Run and jump into the lake and swim a little bit and grab some kind of something in the bag, something in the mouth, and brought that back. And then both of the guys were so surprised and like, hey, the way the dog behaved, They were both so surprised. One guy said, oh, my dog had never done this, something. They had a little conversation like this going on, And then all of a sudden, it's so unusual. What happened? And the dog brought one thing in the mouth and bring back. And then they look open and, oh, what's this? Open. And there was my guru's passport. Passport was there. And then, oh, this is some paper. And the other guy said, oh, I was just reading a newspaper. Oh, this is it. And the newspaper guy and the dog guy met, and the passport was found. And then gave to police, and police informed Kalu Rinpoche, your passport is here. Yeah. My guru has many stories like that. Many stories. And so, yeah. Then they found their passport back, and then they came back to Canada, US, Canada, and they went back to India, and then passport was full of stamp, that one piece of paper, and then told Bhutan government, now I need another paper because I travel with the world, and then it's already too many stamp. And the government of Bhutan says, you can't travel like that. And then they're like, this is some kind of like almost violation, like you can't travel like that. And then they're okay. They gave him real passport after that. Yeah, that's the story. Okay.